I'm doing stuff. I'm working on things. Busy, busy, busy. Tap, tap, tap. There we go. Sizing. Okay, cool. Oh,
That's how you spend your day?
Pretty much. I don't really do shit. So it's I sit here, I drink beer, and then I sell t-shirts. I'm Justin from Local Menace. So I've been a illustrator, graphic designer for, I'm not gonna tell you how long because it's too long and that'll age me. But I used to do a lot of work for bands and logo work and poster work. So I would design stuff, freelance for a bunch of buddies who were in bands, which kind of got me into this world. So I had a big boy job, worked in a different career path, and I was doing this part-time. Back in 2019, I think, quit my big boy job and started doing this full time. Oddly enough, that was the same year I decided to get married, so that probably wasn't the smartest decision, but that's kind of how I fell into the Local Menace branding. Owning a small business, it's not like there's anything that's really set. I have my routines, but some days it'll be working on designs, some days I'll be working on inventory, some days it's working on networking and kind of getting your stuff in front of more people when it comes to like social media, devising a plan for social media. What are we doing this week for pictures, for videos? What are we, our schedules, like what are we scheduling the shop at this week, who's gonna be here, what music festivals or events do we have popping up, for this, this quarter, month, week, whatever. So generally that's, it just depends on what day it is or what my workload looks like for that day. And then, about halfway through the day, I'm really lucky. I work from home, and so does my wife. So about like 1:30, 2 o'clock, we take our lunch together, and then we'll take our dogs out, and then we'll take a nap because we're getting old. That's kind of necessity these days. And then last half of the day, I'm working until about 7 o'clock on average, unless we have an event schedule that I'm doing that day or that night, or if I'm coming in the shop working here. I spent exactly 0 years in school for this. This is all, like I said, I used to play in a lot of bands when I was younger, and I would always doodle ever since I was a kid, right? So it's always would be, either like an instrument or some kind of pen and paper in hand. And am I looking at the camera or looking at you?
Whatever you prefer.
Okay, sorry.
Whatever you prefer.
We'll go back and forth.
I'll get back behind the camera.
So, I'd always be the one that, in all these bands or in friends' bands, I would do the logo work, the design work. So I was like, oh, we need a new t-shirt design. Let's ask Justin. So that's kind of was my leadway into this world. Man, the best part of the day. That's kind of a weird question because, like I said, it's never. I mean, I guess waking up, because if you don't do that, then everything else is all fucking downhill. Can I say?
Yeah.
Fuck? Okay. Well, fuck. So I would say the best part of the day, I don't know, I'm going to be sappy. I'm going to say spending it with my wife, because it's, this one, she's, amazing, obviously. We, we have such a great life together, and it's just great. I don't want to get too sappy, so that's all I'm gonna say. So the worst part is just fatigue, with all the good stuff that goes into running your own business and running your own brand and doing this for a living, doing the art and being involved and going out and meeting all these people. There's a lot of I'm not gonna say negatives, but there's a lot of hardships that come with it. I personally deal with not an overabundance of anxiety, but I do get anxious, and a lot of people kind of get surprised by that because I'm very social. I talk to a lot of people. I have no problem in crowds. Love being around people and talking to people. But my thing is when I'm not around people, then I kind of turn into, I get a little more anxiety. When we're not busy, we're not constantly on the road doing something or have a very packed schedule and it's kind of light, most people probably would be like, okay, I can kind of breathe. That's where I get my anxiety of oh, what are we doing? What's happening? Why am I sitting here? Why am I not, doing 20 things at one time? Why, I have 2 weeks of nothing really scheduled. The world's gonna fall apart. like, if you would have asked me 20 years ago, like, oh man, what's your dream job? I wouldn't have said like, oh, owning my own apparel brand and traveling the country and making all these connections. I'd just be like, I don't know, man. I probably would have been saying like, oh, I just want to be I just want to have a good job, but now looking back in retrospect, like, I wouldn't change this for the world. This is probably the best job you can have, especially for an artist like myself. Being able to create art and get it out to people and have positive feedback about it, it's insane. Like the most rewarding experience is when someone when someone buys like your merch or buying a piece of you. I don't think I've ever had like a legit like mentor or someone that sat me down like, hey, this is what you're supposed to do. And that is the strong benefit of social media. There's a lot of negatives, don't get me wrong, but there's a benefit of having a community that you can learn from, and not necessarily have to have someone say like, oh, you have to do it this way and this way and this way. There are so many artists that I've learned how to do certain things from. I've learned through watching tutorials or like Instagram reels or just whatever, like YouTube videos or whatever. Like just following someone and then learning as you go. Like that's like my those were like my, I guess, mentors or inspiration, I would say. I mean, the goal is to not stop doing this, because even let's we strike it big, and we have a luck of the draw. Something happens where we're just like rolling in dough. Like, why would I go do something else? Like, I'm already where I want to be. Obviously, we want to grow the company. We also want to have other like means of revenue coming in. We want to diversify. We want to expand. But as for like the Local Menace branding and the art, yeah, of course, I'll be doing this in 5 years, unless So someone who wants to start an apparel brand, one, I don't have all the answers. Obviously, like what we do, we're lucky enough to find our customer, which is one thing I will say: find your customer. But don't just take one person's advice. Go and find a couple people, because like not every person has the answer, right? The misconceptions are, I think, kind of like what I talked about earlier. I think people really think that like, oh, I'm gonna put this design out and that's gonna be a guaranteed $5,000 in my pocket. It's not like that. It's really, you gotta find your like footing. You gotta find out what your inventory is gonna look like. You gotta find out what sells. Music is such an important role in this brand, in my life, in what we do. We wouldn't be here if it wasn't for music. So for those of you who don't know, like, we travel a lot across the country for music festivals. Been lucky enough to do stuff like tours like the Vans Warped Tour, Riot Fest, Furnace Fest, a bunch of other ones across the country. It's taken me all the way, from Orlando, Florida, all the way up to Portland, Oregon, and everywhere in between. So yeah, and primarily I would say anything that we're on the road doing, it's always a music festival. So yeah, I get to listen to music while I'm working. It's gotten so intense sometimes where like when I'm driving, so we have to obviously drive to these music festivals and whatever. Sometimes it's just like when I'm driving, I'm like, I gotta turn music on, because I've almost had too much music. We're spending 3 to 4 days of just constant like live music. You're like, all right, I need some I gotta make sure my brain solidifies again on the way back home. Retirement, yeah, think about it, but not in like a fun, like, oh, one day I'll retire. One of those things of like, what am I gonna do when I retire? Like, what can I retire? When you work for yourself, there's you don't have the safety net of like a corporate job and whatnot. There's a lot of things that you lose to work for yourself, and that can be a 401k, a retirement plan. I have plans in place, for whenever that happens, because like it's not gonna last forever. But it's not something that it's not like something I look forward to. I'm not gonna lie, because at the end of the day, like I said earlier, it's, I have my dream job, and retiring would just be like, I would go crazy if I was sitting at home all day not doing anything. never like to look back on like the what ifs, because the fuck ups, the issues, the mistakes get you here. So yeah, 1000% I would do this if the opportunity arose again. You know, like keep going. I wouldn't want to change the path as much. I would like to learn how to. I would like to have done it earlier, because I got into it a little bit later than what I wanted to. But yeah, of course, like this is like, who would not want to have this job? You know, like this is an amazing job. I get to meet amazing people. I get to meet. I'm doing it. Leave me alone.
Hey.
God, I'm trying to concentrate. So yeah, I get to like meet like amazing people. I get to do like what I love for a living, and yeah, I would do it all over again. Yeah, except for maybe that shirt. That shirt sucks.
Thanks, Justin. That's all I got.
This is not a bad job. I love it. It is my dream job. You know, it hasn't been easy, no, but that's the one thing I try to think about when it gets a little hard and it gets a little bit too much, is the fact that, you know, I'm not working at, you know, Chase Bank. Trying to find the balance of being able to turn my brain off, and when it's not chaos, it's okay. You know, like, because like we're so used to it, like it being chaotic and busy and whatnot, and we're conditioned I'm conditioned to be, as in my brain is wired to think that like, oh, busy means good, when that's not the case. You know, you don't have to have a good day. You don't have to be busy to have a good day. You know, you can kind of like take a step back and enjoy the silence.